All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the HardBody Chronicle. I guess here we go again. It's happened already, or at least been recorded and shared with the world. So we have another incident where another black man has been gunned down. Jacob Blake was his name, and he's thankfully he's still alive, but he's been paralyzed from and recovering from that. So I don't know. I mean, that's all I know so far. And it's kicked off another round of protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where he's from, and it's kind of picked it up around the country as well. So, I mean, I'm just continuously dumbfounded as to how these cops are employed and how they're even cops in the first place. I just the video I saw, I think it was just a kind of an edited version of the video of the shooting, but it seems like there were several cops. Whatever was going on, they had no control of the situation. So, like, I guess it just always seems to escalate to guns. Like, they have a lot of other tools in their arsenal, but it just seems to go to guns right away. I don't know. Shit, even a taser would have been, regardless of what was the situation and why it happened and why they targeted him. It seems like they could have taken a few other measures before getting to the firearm. I saw one fucking cop was like trying to grab at him, like, like a pussy, like it wasn't like if you're trying to restrain someone, fucking do it, like you're a cop, act like it. And but he kind of, Jacob seems to have gotten away from him, and as he reaches in his car, that's I think when the shooting starts. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he was trying to get from his car, but regardless, I mean, the situation should have been controlled way before that. So again, I don't know. I feel kind of dumb repeating what Joe Rogan says, but he's right in that cops need to know how to grapple. Uh, I don't understand what kind of techniques they train, um, but it always just seems to it just leads to the gun like right away. Like that's kind of the first instinct. I don't know. I think if you're a cop, you should kind of expect to get into it a lot of the times that you're called to the scene, right? Like, and it just seems like when these black guys get shot down, they're not even doing anything that warrants a gun being drawn on them. So that's why I'm like, well, you know what? Like, hey, if you end up beating up someone because you were trying to restrain them, that's better than, that person dying or anyone dying. Like I'd rather, if I was a cop, I don't know, not saying that I'm going to be a cop, but if I was a cop, I'd rather rough someone up, take control of the situation, as opposed to shooting someone. I wouldn't want that on my conscience, and I wouldn't agree to being a cop without knowing that there's going to be a lot of times where I'm going to be at risk. I mean, that just comes with the fucking territory. That's what I don't get. Like who, like where along the hiring process was it determined that these people would make good cops? I don't know. Or is it just the bottom of the barrel, and that's the only people that would apply? Because that's what it seems like, to be honest. I mean, so it's just really frustrating, and still, there's a lot of people that just don't get why this is a terrible thing. Um, yeah, I mean, they're always what always ends up happening is that they try to justify the killing. Like, oh well, he did this 5 years ago. Oh, he had a knife in the car that he wasn't necessarily trying to reach for. It was just, let's just throw all this shit on top of this person to make it seem like it was okay to act that way towards them, and that's wrong. That's just, I don't care. I mean, what's the point of having all these laws if we don't abide by them at any point, and we just say, all right, cops can just fucking kill whoever they want? Um, that's bullshit. That's wrong. And it shouldn't be that way. And it shouldn't. And the fact that you're black shouldn't be a factor in that. Like, it's just, but it continuously happens. Like, it's just, if you're black, you get pulled over, it could be a bad day, and that's a really shitty thing to have to live with and have to explain to your kids that that's a very real possibility. So again, I'm dumbfounded. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's all these talks of there's all these talks of defund the police and whatnot. Um, I'm not saying that, I don't know if that's the right call, but something needs to be done to where things are restructured some way. I don't know whether that's more money, less money. I don't know. It's hard to say, but um, clearly the policing that's going on is not adequate, and there's just way too many fuck ups. Like, why, and why is it given a pass all the time, and why does the union always step in and protect these shitty cops? Like, I don't. At this point, it's just more questions than answers, really. Yeah, but I think it probably just does start with who applies to be a cop, and whatever process that is just failing miserably. Um, because there's a lot of good cops out there that know the community, know how to talk to people, know how to talk people down from situations, and that's great. That's awesome. That we need more of that, where the cop is more like a just, you just know the cop. He's he's just kind of a member of the community, as opposed to someone coming in to kill someone um, because someone called the cops on them. Like, that's just, I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot of training that needs to go on. Um, I've never really looked into how much training police do, but from what I'm seeing, it's not very much. I mean, that could be a funding issue. Maybe they just need more money. I don't know. I mean, I've said this before. It seems like cops are really just like like a superhero version of a caseworker, a social worker. Like, that's the kind of shit that they run into most of the time is like a social work issue. It's not necessarily that they gotta um, draw their guns and go into a shootout. It's really just talking people down, domestic violence, drug use, and that kind of thing. It's not necessarily somewhere where they have to enforce or use lethal force to take control of the situation. Really, it's just talking to the people, and I think that's a big component, and probably what's missing right now for a lot of cops, and how they end up in these stupid situations. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, it keeps happening, and it's black people. It's constant, and that's just extremely frustrating. I can only imagine what it's like to be black and have these constant reminders all the fucking time about how you are treated less than human. Like, that's what's going on here. It's just disregard for a person's humanity, and just cops not knowing how to do their fucking job, really. So it's just a lot of factors going into this, and it results in tragedy for families and unnecessary death, and it's fucked up, and it needs to stop. So yeah, I mean, an aftermath of that shooting, like I say, he's still alive and he's in the hospital. I don't know what his condition is right now, but I mean, I think last I heard he's paralyzed, and hopefully he comes out and maybe has a recovery, lives to tell his story. But regardless, it shouldn't have happened. So it's just fucked up that that he was put in that situation. So we'll see. But another stupid fucking thing was a counter protester showed up. I mean, it's really just right wing guys showing up with their firearms, um, pretty much in a dick measuring contest to protect businesses that were in harm's way because of the protests, which is pretty much, it's just a fucking cop out. It's really just an excuse for you to open carry and feel like you're important and cool and powerful, because every other day you're not. So that's why these motherfuckers show up and do this kind of thing. So one of them was a fucking kid, a 17 years old, had a rifle, and I guess got into it with some protesters, killed two of them, shot another. Um, and the weirdest thing is, like, after the fact, like he's walking towards the cops with his hands up and a fucking rifle, hanging from his neck, and it was weird. I don't know if the cops knew what he had done. That's the only reason I could think this happened. But they just let him. They give him a pass. They just let him go through, and he wasn't arrested until the next day. But um, just another situation where a white suspect gets VIP treatment um, after having committed a crime. So again, I mean, and a lot of people are kind of glorifying it, kind of making him seem like he's a hero for doing, you know, giving it to Antifa, and making it, I don't know. It's just fucking. I like to think that we as a country and are smarter than this, but I guess not. We're really not, because that's why we're in these situations right now. Everything's politicized, and man, I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed that we're still this dumb in a lot of things, and it's always black and white. Like it's one or the other. There's no in between. There's no discourse that goes on that we can kind of say, oh well, that you're right about this and I'm wrong about that, and maybe we can kind of go from there. No, it's just like the lines have been drawn, and that's it. You can't be anywhere in the middle. Um, Otherwise, it's like a sign of weakness that you're giving into the other side. So it's just, man, I don't know. Just we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe those just this kind of stuff will just keep happening until the election. It's hard to say, really, but yeah, I just one, you shouldn't kill black people. Um, well, cops shouldn't kill black people, and two, you should be able to protest without worrying about someone coming in with their fucking guns, fucking swinging their dicks around, trying to intimidate people and prevent them from protesting. You know, supposedly protecting businesses that you have no interest in. Like, go fuck yourself. I mean, go to the range if you really want to fucking shoot. Like do what normal people do. Go to the range, get your rocks off, be done with it. You don't need to fucking walk around. No one cares that you have a large gun. Like, really, like that is the only difference between you and everyone else right now, is that you have a large gun, and that's it. Otherwise, you're just like everybody else. So, damn, it's just, we'll see. What else? Moving on from that, the NBA also had a pretty strong reaction to this. So they stopped one. Well, the Milwaukee Bucks initiated this. As a sign of protest and in solidarity with the shooting victim, they didn't walk out for their playoff game. It was Wednesday night, and then everybody else kind of saw their example and went with it, and everyone else pretty much in the NBA for Wednesday and Thursday nights didn't play their games. And the WNBA, I think MLS and MLB also, there was several games that were put on hold as a result of what's going on. So yeah, I mean that's always interesting, just because a lot of NBA in particular, there's a lot of role models in the league, and I guess maybe just in the fact that they were playing out of a bubble, away from the families and whatnot, they felt pretty shitty and that they really couldn't do much. Even I mean, they can't leave. I mean, there's all kinds of implications behind it because of their contract and whatnot and everything that had been agreed upon before going into the bubble. But it was interesting that they all said, you know what, fuck it, we're not going to play these 2 days until we can figure something out and maybe use their influence to affect some kind of change. And I think what ended up happening is they're going to use stadiums as polling places, which is pretty dope. But I don't know. I've not read into that. I don't know like what the legality is behind that, if they can do that. But if it goes through, I mean that's it's something. Um, Maybe some stadiums are located in a more central area to get to. I don't know, but any little bit helps. Um, so we'll see. So I mean that was pretty cool on their part. Um, so yeah, I mean, again though, I think in closing we gotta reiterate a lot of the problems facing Black America right now. And I'm not trying to speak for Black people, but this is kind of these are just my observations um, as to what's going on. Because I think white people in particular, they they feel, well, some of them feel like they're just painted with the same brush, so to speak. Um, like I didn't own slaves, but you benefit from that. That's the point, that your ancestors um, had a part in systemic racism in the country, and a lot of the hardships that are faced by Black people is a result of that. It just kind of snowballs throughout generations. So this is a generational thing. It's not something that happened overnight. It's not you necessarily owning slaves or not owning slaves. It's just, regardless of that, you benefited from that, from that oppression. So again, I think if you don't support systemic racism and you're anti-racist, Black people aren't talking about you. I mean that it's the other white people. It's the other people who just refuse to get it. Really, I mean the outrage is against those white people who like to pretend racism doesn't exist. It's um, it's an outrage against people who romanticize American history, which is brutal. It's an outrage against people who repeatedly justify the murders of these Black people. It's just that's those are the things that we need white people to understand. The white people who don't get it, like that's why people get so worked up. That's why people are out in the streets protesting and pissed off and burning shit down, because you don't fucking listen. So that's why it's happening. That's why people are out there nightly for the past few months, really across the country, trying to get these points across to people. Because um, you just you kind of sweep it under the rug like it's not a thing, but it is, and people are suffering because of it. And constantly being treated less than is a problem. That's no way to live. So attention needs to be, you know, directed towards these issues, and that's what white people need to understand. I mean, And I think people of color also kind of share this with Black people, in that it's kind of, people of color always have to make themselves vulnerable enough so that white people hopefully get it. But there's no reciprocity there. Like, it's just, here's my life story and all my hardship that I've gone through and my family has gone through. Like, white people don't reciprocate that. They're like, oh, well, that's terrible. I'm sorry. Like, that's it. Like, I don't, and I see this a lot because I've done diversity trainings, and it's always the same. Like, this shit always happens. You know, Black person tells you their stories of hardships. White people listen, and they're like, "Oh, wow, thank you for sharing," and that's it. Like, it ends there. Like, there's no attempt to try to share their own history or hardship that they may have experienced, um, that may or may not have been racially, race related or not. It's just, there's nothing. There's no reciprocity there. There's no exchange of stories or emotion. It's always the people of color have to put themselves on a silver platter so that hopefully some fucking day white people get why we're pissed off or why Black people feel that way. Um, and I don't know. I mean, like, it's just weird, and it's especially for Black people. I would think in that no matter how much you put yourself out there, it just seems like people they don't want to get it or even try to have any kind of empathy towards it. And I mean, that in and of itself is privilege, that you can just do that. That you can be like, fuck your experiences. I don't care. I'm all right. That is the privilege. That's white privilege right then and there. So the fact that you can just kind of go on with your life and be perfectly fine and never have to worry about any of this bullshit that happens to everyone else, right? So, and that's, I mean, I'm not speaking for Black people, but that is one of the things that they just want. They want to be understand. They want to be understood and heard, and um, have some empathy shown towards them, and then from there, have people in power, of people of influence, use that to, you know get some change going. And that's it. Like, that's all. That's why people are out there and protesting. And again, people don't seem to get it. It's just really confusing to me. I don't know. And it's frustrating. um I mean, just, if a white person calls the cops for whatever reason, like, they don't have to worry about anything. Right? They call the cops, they'll show up in a minute, and and do their jobs. That's probably the most. That is when the cops are probably the most professional, when they show up to a nice neighborhood, nice white neighborhood. They're probably the most professional, the most efficient. They're working at 100% right there. But anywhere else, it's a completely different story. Um, and that's the thing. Black people don't feel protected by the police, when police are supposed to protect and serve everyone. Um, justice for all, not just for some. And that's the thing. It's like, Black people still pay taxes just like everybody else, but they don't get the same protections and benefits from that, and that's fucked up. I mean, that's just from a fiscal perspective. Like, you pay into something that you get no benefit from. It's like, what the fuck, right? So that's where we are right now, I guess. I mean, it's been a shit year already, and I don't know. I just hope that something good can come from all this bullshit. A lot of people are really hoping the election does something to change some of these things, and bring more attention to some of these issues. Um, I mean that's fine, but this shit has been going on forever, and I really do hope that. I mean, at the very minimum, it really is just a matter of time. All these old racist white people are going to die off soon. A lot of them are in retirement age, and it seems like a lot of the younger generations are definitely more understanding. I mean, you see a lot of white people or non-black people in the protests, and which is refreshing to see that. So, um, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think it is the white man's last stand, whether they like to believe it or not. I mean, I would hope they just get with the program as opposed to fighting it tooth and nail to the very end. But I don't know. I mean, at this rate, it's kind of hard to say, to be honest. So again, I'm kind of at a loss for words. I don't really know. Like I when I saw the video, well, I put off watching the Jacob Blake shooting for a long time just because it just same thing with George Floyd's. I just knew it was bad. Like it's just there's just a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of reform needs to take place. So we'll see. Um, yeah, I think if just one ask I have of people is just give people a little more grace and and be more understanding of people's hardships and try to show some empathy towards people. Um, I mean, when if you talk to someone who's going through things, what's important is the fact that you listen to them and you try to understand their pain, and that goes a long way. And no one's asking you to fix everyone's problems, but um, just being understanding of the things that people go through. Uh, that's sometimes that's just more than enough. That's sometimes that's all people want, and that gives them the strength to kind of keep going. So yeah, we just got to do a better job of looking after each other, regardless of race or religion. Um, we just got to be good towards each other, and I feel like we need a reminder of that to get through these things. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, I mean it's been a rough week, but I felt the need to address some of the incidents that had gone on because it's important. I think this is history that needs to be it's happening right now. I mean we're living it, so we have to discuss it, good or bad. Sometimes whether you want to or not, but it's important, and we got to open up and start certain dialogues uh, with people, with each other, and hopefully um, we can show empathy towards those who deal with the issues of systemic racism, some more than others. I mean, speaking as a white passing Latino, I've certainly benefited from being this light skinned, whether it's in job interviews, how I am approached at work or approached by the fucking police too. I mean, I said this. I already said this in one of the previous podcasts. Anytime I've been pulled over, they've been very nice to me. And but I've got black friends that have different stories from that, and that's really sad that's the way it is. So um, I'm cautiously optimistic that things will get better. Um, I'm thinking eventually they will, but I would like to see things get better now for everyone. There's no reason why we have to wait so long for racist boomers to die off. Like we should just take a logical approach to a lot of these things and just fix them and just move on and progress as a people and as a society and as a country. Because there's no reason why anyone should be held down. And I mean, because that's really just that affects the country, and that's the loss of human capital. Where there's a lot of kids out there who don't have opportunities that could have, if they had the opportunities that I had or other people had or white people had, they could have cured cancer or done something great for the world. And sometimes just the fact there's a lot of people that get that stomped out from the very beginning just because they live in a bad neighborhood or they're black or brown or whatever the fuck, it's just that's sad. That's the worst thing that comes from all this. It's just that all the potential is lost there because they have to deal with other things like getting food on the table. So or avoiding racist ass cops that want to shoot and kill you for being black. I mean, that's terrible. It's terrible that these are the things that some people have to deal with, and it's not fair. It's not right, and I hope we can change that soon. So I'm signing off. Everybody, take care. Blessings to you and your families, and I'll see you next time.